Hello everyone, welcome to another video of Automotive Diagnosis YouTube channel. Actually, I've been asked many times to make a video about reading the wiring diagram because obviously anytime you have any electrical fault on the car, you're gonna need using the wiring diagram, and if you don't know how to get the information from the wiring, it's gonna be really difficult for you to fix the car. So in this video I will show you how to use the wiring diagram, how to get the information from it, all the information including the component locations, wires, wire colors, pin location, pin numbers, connectors as well, and many other information that we can get from the wiring diagrams. Most of the wiring diagrams for different cars are pretty much similar, but they are designed differently. So I'm making this video based on the Kia and Hyundai wiring diagrams. I will try to make some other videos for other cars as well. But technically, if you know how to use this wiring diagram, you can use it for other cars as well. They can be a bit different in design, but at the end of the day, most of the wiring diagrams are almost the same. Okay, let's start. So technically, for Kia and Hyundai wiring diagrams, you can find these wiring diagrams in two different ways. One of them is the PDF files. You can find it here and there. You just need to Google it. Many websites provide the PDF file. Some of them, some PDF files are like this. The one that I'm showing you, which is already, you see, 267 pages. So it means all the systems, all the wiring, all the component location, and all the information you need, they are all together in one PDF file. But sometimes you may find different systems in different files. You may have separate files for different systems. You can also find the wiring diagrams in GDS, which is Kia and Hyundai diagnostic tool. If you have that, I'm not talking about the universal scan tools, the original one. If you have the original scan tool for Kia and Hyundai, normally a wiring diagram and workshop manual, DTC guide, everything is included as well. So you can find all those wiring diagram over there as well. Some guys normally do have access to the website as well, so you can find the wiring diagram online as well. So today I will show you how to read the diagram on the PDF file, and later I will show you exactly in this video. I will show you how to do that on the website as well when you read the wiring diagrams online. Just a little bit difference. Obviously, the way that you read the wiring diagram is exactly the same, but you may have some more access when you're using the online website, but everything is exactly the same. Okay, let's start. So for this PDF file, I have all the systems together. At the beginning, I have some introduction, really quick introduction for reading the wiring diagram. I will explain everything later in another wiring, because here is too much information. It's really hard to explain. If you go forward, you have some other information for some symbols in the wiring as well. But let's start just talking about the wiring on a real wiring for one system. For example, for the starting system. Obviously, if I go to other pages, I have other wiring like for charging system, for vehicle speed, automatic transmission. All of them are in this PDF file. But if I start from a starting system, because it's more familiar for you guys as well, it's really uh, easier to understand. So heaps of information here as well. So you see at the very first page, you have a starting system page one. Number one shows you that you don't have only one page for this starting system. You may have different pages as well. Page 2, page 3, page 4. And the reason that I'm explaining this one, because sometimes you download the file from some website, you just get one file, one page, and that page is not applicable to your car. Like this starting system is for this engine G4FC for Gamma engine 1.6 liter without button start. So obviously this one is applicable for this car without smart key system or button start. But if you go to this next page, you see the next page is for Theta 2 2-liter engine, and page 3 is for 1.6 liter engine with button start. So you see you have different pages for a starting system on actually different engine types, or when you have different options like button start on the car. That's why you gotta be careful if you are looking at the wiring diagram. You want to make sure that that's exactly applicable to your car. Otherwise, you may have wrong information. So, if I zoom out this one a little bit so everyone can see. So, in this wiring diagram, first of all, we have it's a couple of boxes, okay, shown here. All of these boxes, they are actually the components that are involved in the starting system. Like on the left, I have battery. This is the battery. I have ER fuse and relay box. ER, which is engine room fuse and relay box. I will explain this one because we may have different naming on Kia and Hyundai for fuse and relay boxes. This is ignition switch, IP junction box for interior fuse box. Again, I have ER fuse and relay box here as well. This is a starter, ignition lock switch, and transaxle range switch. So the first step for reading the wiring diagram obviously is to identify the components. If you don't identify the components, it's going to be really hard. Maybe it's going to be confusing as well. So identify the components first, then you can start finding the connection between these components to get more information. So first of all, about the component's name, because this wiring diagram is for Hyundai and Kia. I give you some more information as well when I'm talking about the wiring diagram, like for ER fuse and relay box. Obviously, as I told you, ER stands for engine room. So this one is referring to the engine room fuse and relay box. But sometimes on Kia and Hyundai, we have different naming for fuse and relay boxes. But I just try to write it down just right here on the right side. So if we have E/R fuse box or fuse and relay box is referring to, I'm just writing on the right side on the video. This one is referring to the engine room fuse and relay box. Sometimes you have EMS box. Again, this one is referring to the engine room fuse and relay box, specifically to actually one section inside the engine room fuse and relay box. But obviously, it's really easy for you guys to find it out when you know that it's inside the engine room fuse and relay box. On some cars, it's called FAM, front area module. So if you see FAM is mentioned or FAM is mentioned, is referring to the engine fuse box. Okay, but what about for interior fuse box? Let's go for the interior fuse box, because you see up here IP junction box. As I told you, IP junction box, obviously this one is referring to the interior fuse box inside the car, inside the cabin. Sometimes I have IP fuse and relay box, the same thing. It's referring to the interior fuse box. Sometimes it's called IPM. If you have IPM, it means interior fuse box as well. On some cars like Kia Sportage, Optima, many others, you have SJB, which stands for Smart Junction Box. This one is referring to the interior fuse box as well. So if you see these different namings, they are referring to interior fuse box. Okay. Good. So now we know the component's name because the first thing we did was identifying the components. There is something really important next to each component is the photo number. So like for this one, I have ignition switch photo 43, 37 here for IP junction box, and even for some connectors in between I have the photo number. So this photo is referring to the component location. So if you're looking for IP junction box, if you have this PDF file with all the other files together in one file, you just need to go to very last pages where you can see all the component location, and they are exactly in sequence in number. You can find just page number, photo number 37 to find it out. If I find it for you right now. Okay, this is the component location. So you may have this one in one file, in this file, or in separate file. So if files are separate, you just need to download the component location file as well. And we are looking for actually photo number 37. See, all the photos are numbered here, and you have real photos taken from the car. I find 37. There you go. So as you see, photo number 37 is referring to the IP junction box, which is interior fuse box. And you see all the connector naming and locations as well, which I will talk about it later. So you have all other photos as well taken from the car, which will help you to locate the components. If you're just looking for the component location here and there, you can just find it in the blind diagram. But obviously, if you use the online blind diagram or the GDS, it's going to be a bit different. I will show you later how to do that. Between any of these components, of course, I have the wiring. You see, I have this wiring between IPA and between actually IP junction box and ignition switch. So for example, if you are diagnosing a car on the starting system and the car doesn't crank at all, you are checking this fuse here, start fuse in IP junction box, and you see that you don't have any power on this fuse. So technically, when you turn the ignition switch to start position, when you crank the engine, so this is the ignition switch. When you start, this switch will change the position from the lock to start position, and it will pass the power from this fuse ignition to IGN to 30 amp from this wire all the way to ignition switch. And because ignition switch is already turned to start position to crank the car, to crank the engine, this power from here, from this wire, will be going all the way to IP junction box, to this fuse. So you see that you don't have the car cranking, you check this fuse, there is no power on this fuse. So it could be from anything before this, okay? If you think that you need to check this wire, if you want to check this wire, because you are trying to find some checkpoints to check the wiring point by point, to find this wire, there are some steps that I will explain to you if I zoom it. So for this wire, for finding any single wire in the car, first of all, I need to know what is the color of that wire. Okay, any wire will be connected to one connector, I need the connector code and connector location, and obviously inside that connector, that wire will be connected to a specific pin. So I need the pin number as well. So I need the wire color, I need the connector code and location, because connector code itself is not enough. I need to find the connector location as well, and I need to find the pin number inside that connector. So if I have all these, I can find my my wire and two ends of that wire as well. Okay, so for this one, you see W here. This one is referring to the white. So apparently this wire is white. For any other wire, I have color code next to the wire. So B for black, R for red, W for white again. What are the color codes? If I go to very first pages, okay, this is the wire color abbreviations or the color codes. For the Hyundai and Kia, we have this code for these colors: B for black, BR for brown, G for green, GR for gray. So we have all these, so you can have a look. If you have O, it's for the orange. So if we have this one, if we have just one single color on the wire, but if you have something like this, Y/B, so the first one is the color of the wire, and the second one is the color of the strip. So it means we have two colors on the wire. The main color is actually is yellow, and the strip on the wire is black, is the second one. Okay, let's go back to the wiring. So for this wire that we are after to find it inside the car, we know that this wire is already white. What else? This wire is connected to the ignition switch from one side and IP junction box from the other side. Okay, so you want to find the connectors. For IP junction box, we have the location here. This is the one that I showed you, photo 37 at the very last pages, or on the component location file. We know that this wire is inside the connector IPA and pin number 8. This is the pin number. So the one that you have on the left is the pin number. What you have on the right is the connector code. So which one is the IPA? If you check the IP junction box, you have several connectors. So it's really confusing if you don't know the connector location. So I go to very last page again to show you IPA. Okay, this is page 233, component location, photo 37. And you see how many connectors we have on the IP junction box. This is IPA. So this one is the one that we are after. So we are looking for a white wire inside this connector, which is inside the pin number 8. So how can we find some more information about the connector itself? We already found the connector location, but we need to find the pin number as well. How can we find some more information about the connector? And let's see what we can find. Okay, I just found it. IPA, passenger compartment junction box. This is the IPA. We are looking for pin number 8, which is this one. So we have some more information here as well, like the one that we have down here. The first two sections are not really useful. The second two sections are. So on the second sections, if we check, obviously 08 shows the pin numbers, how many pins we have inside the connector. It's more than obvious that we have 8. F stands for female, so we know that this connector that we are looking at is the female connector. if we have male here, it shows male connector. So M stands for male, F stands for female. If we have F, means our connector is female. If we have M, means the connector that we are after is male. And the other one, W at the end, refers to the connector color. So we know that the connector that we are after is actually white. So instead of searching, you can find the connector in another way as well. You see all the connectors are listed here. We have connector configurations as well. So if you have the whole PDF file, you can search it, or you can just find this section, connector configurations. But if you have separate files, you need to download the connector configurations as well to find the details for the connector that you are after. So we already found the connector code, we already found the connector location, we know the pin number, we have the wire color as well. It's super easy to find the wire that we are after, right? Perfect. Sometimes we have some other sections on the wires. For example, for this wire, or for this wire, you see this wire is connected to IP junction box connector IPB, but you see actually at the middle there is another connector here as well. So it means this wire is not connected directly to the IPB. Uh, uh, there is another connector as well. So for this one, obviously the same story. You can find the connector by this code, and photo 6C is referring to the connector location for this one, and 22 is the pin number, and the color of the wire is white as well. Okay, perfect. So what else we have? First of all, some more general information. For any boxes, for any sections, for any parts you see in the wiring, which is actually provided with these broken lines, it means that you don't see the whole section of this component. Like for ER fuse and relay box, you just see the section relevant for the starting system. Like for the ignition switch, IP junction box, when you have the broken line, it means you just see a specific section of that component which is relevant to the system that you are looking at. But something like the starter, when you see solid line like this, it means everything for the starting system is shown here. So you don't have anything else. All the electrical sections, pins, wiring for the starter is shown here. This is the difference. If you have any relay like this, if you have any relay for that system, you will see that sections as well. This sign is for the fuses. You see the fuse amp range as well. You will have some sections in the wiring diagram specifically for engine and interior fuse box as well, so you have all the details for them too. There is something sometimes at the top right before the fuses, because this is the sensor 3 10 amp fuse, but you have something written at the top, hot in, on, or start. So this one shows in what circumstance this fuse will receive the power, because sometimes you have a fuse, when you turn the ignition off, that fuse doesn't receive any power anymore. If you don't know that, it's going to be confusing when you are checking the fuses. So for this fuse, when you turn the ignition off, you won't have any power on this fuse anymore, because when we say hot in, on, or start, it means that this fuse will receive the power from the battery or charging system only when ignition switch is on or start position. In any other circumstance, like when ignition switch on accessories on ACC, or when ignition switch completely off, this fuse will not have any power. But you may have some other fuses. You may have some other fuses like this one. Yeah, like this one. But it's written up here, hot at all times. So this wiring diagram is for a starting system for a car with button start system. And you see this fuse for a smart key is receiving the power at all times. So you should be expecting the power for on this fuse even if uh, the ignition switch is completely off. Okay, let's go back to our page. But technically, how can I read the wiring diagram? Because now what I did so far is just to identify the components, find the wire color, pin location, pin numbers, connector location, connector numbers, and all sort of things like this. But what I do normally for reading the wire diagram is just to find the starting points. Okay, because if you don't have any start point, it's going to be really confusing for you guys to read the wire diagram. So what you need to do is find a starting point. For example, for a starting system, the starting point for this system is ignition switch, where you start the car, when you crank the car. Okay, so you will start from there. Just imagine that this is the ignition switch. Start from the ignition switch and turn just because wiring diagram that you see is when this system is not working. So you need to start thinking that how this wiring and this system will work if you activate it. So try to think, if I turn the ignition switch to start to crank the car, what will happen? The first thing which is going to happen is this fuse, which already provided the power from the battery to this wiring, is going to provide the power to this line as well. And as soon as you turn the ignition switch to start position, this power is going to travel all the way from here, from this white wire to IP junction box to start switch to a start fuse. And if a start fuse is okay, this battery power is going to travel all the way from IPB pin number 3 to another wire color. It goes to connector MC12 pin number 22, which is located here in photo 6D, and it will reach to this position. But here we have two different sections. If your car is equipped with manual transmission, you need to continue reading the wiring diagram from here. But if your car is equipped with automatic transmission, you need to continue from here. This is AT, stands for automatic transmission. So if you have automatic transmission, continue reading the wiring diagram from here, from this section. Go all the way down. You reach to this component, which is transaxle wrench switch, or sometimes it's called inhibitor switch. So you see the inhibitor switch. This battery power is going to go through the inhibitor switch, and obviously the only time that you are able to start the car, to crank the car, is when transmission is located on park or neutral position. And you see that PN switch. So it means if your transmission is on drive or reverse, you won't be able to start the car. And sometimes this transaxle switch is out of adjustment, so you need to adjust it or replace it if it doesn't let the power to go through, even if the transmission is on the park or neutral position. But if it's okay and transmission is on park or neutral position, this battery power is going to travel all the way from here. It will go back to this wire, okay, and it will go up from this gray wire all the way to the starter relay. Okay, so I have the starter relay here. For a starter relay, I have, if you guys know about the relays, that's okay. Otherwise, I will provide, and I will make another video for actually showing you guys how to check different relays. But for this starter relay, you see internal structure is provided as well to make it easier for everyone to understand it. For any relay, we have a coil and we have a switch side. So for the coil, for any coil to activate the relay, we need the battery positive and negative. So positive is already provided from here, from the wire that we were chasing, and the other side should be connected to the negative. on this one, on this car, if we continue the wire, it's connected to ECM, engine control module, and you see a start relay control. It means ECM is responsible to provide the negative to control and to activate the starter relay. And you may notice there is another line from this positive to ECM. This is actually a kind of feedback. This is kind of input to the ECM. When you start the car, right before providing the power to the starter relay, there is another wire actually providing this power to ECM as well, just to show the ECM that a start relay must be activated. So ECM, after getting this signal, it will provide the negative as well to activate the starter relay. Okay, so we already provided the positive to pin number 2 on the starter relay, and ECM provided the negative as well. So what will happen? This relay, this will energize the relay to create a magnetic field, and it will close the switch. When relay switch is closed, power from this relay will travel all the way down from this red wire to the starter solenoid. This is a starter solenoid, and the reason that the starter solenoid is much bigger than the starter motor in this wiring, because they just wanted to show the detail of the starter solenoid here. It doesn't mean that the starter solenoid is bigger on the real starter. It just they just wanted to show the details. And as you see, this power will go through the starter solenoid on pulling and holding winding inside the solenoid to actually activate the starter, to pull in the plunger and activate the starter. So the last section for explaining the starting system was actually to show you how we can get the information from the starting system, because anytime, for example, for this one, if the car doesn't crank, you need to find some points to troubleshoot the car. For example, you won't be able to crank the car, you can check the starter relay. Okay, you can check the starter relay, you can remove and check the starter relay, or you can just put your finger on the starter relay. If it's clicking, it's giving you some idea. But what I do normally, if car doesn't crank, and I think it's from the starter relay, because when I start, I don't hear the starter relay operation or clicking sound. I will swap the starter relay with another identical relay, just a quick fix. If it works, certainly it's from the starter relay. Otherwise, what I do, I check the power supply on this pin, because if you remember, I explained everything that the power has to travel all the way from the ignition switch, this fuse, inhibitor switch, and back from all this wiring to here. So when I check the power supply, when I turn the ignition to start position, I ask someone to start the car, and I check the power here, the positive here. If I do have the battery voltage here, it means that everything before the relay was working properly. I need to focus everything after the relay. But if I don't have the power supply here, it means that everything before this one must be checked. But do I need to check them all one by one? No, I check another checkpoint like this fuse. I try to find the most easiest one and the accessible one. I go for the start fuse inside the car, inside the interior fuse box. I check this start fuse. It could be from the start fuse, or it could be anything before the start fuse, which is responsible to provide the power on that. So this is how we can read the wiring diagrams. First of all, locate the components. Try to read the wiring diagram like I did. So you will have a scenario of the system when actually it's working. Then you can start finding some points, some easy points to check. Then you can Because what I do, I just try to narrow the problem down. I try to isolate the problem area, because a starter doesn't work. I don't know what's going on. I can uh, check it step by step. Okay, I can check it step by step to isolate the problem area and make it smaller for myself, to find it out. You can practice it on the different wiring diagram, different systems as well, to get more familiar with actually with the wiring diagrams. Let's have a look at the wiring. Let's have a look at the wiring when you are using the GDS or online website. Okay, this is the online website. If you are using the GDS or KIA and Hyundai original scan tool, you have exactly same wiring diagrams. So you see the is exactly the same as PDF file, but you have some more access. Some other things are much easier to be found. Like you have the component name, component location, everything like that. But do you remember the connector code? For finding the locations, you don't need to go to the component location, because obviously we use the IP junction box location to find IPA. You remember that? But now, if I stay on the IPA, I have a link here. Something is linked here. If I click on the IPA, I have connector detail, IPA, all the connector detail I had, including the code down there. If I click on the component, I see the component location. This is the IPA and all others, and even the harness. Okay, I can look for the IPA, which is this one, in the wiring harness. So this is the easiest thing about using the GDS, but everything else is completely the same. Everything else is completely the same. So if you don't have the GDS, take it easy. Just look for the PDF file. It's exactly the same. You can use it for troubleshooting. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I tried to make some other videos to show you how to read the wiring diagram for other cars, and I try to make it specific for other systems as well, how to read the wiring diagrams for other systems, because reading the starting system now was just one example for reading the wiring diagram to show you how to get the information from it. But I try to do it for other systems, some complicated ones like the starting system, like the smart key system, engine, control module, transmission. So hopefully it's going to be helpful for you guys as well. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe and share the video to your friends. I see you very soon in another episode. Thank you.